She was lying in the dirt when we first saw her, too still, too silent, as if she'd already given up on the world. Her fur was matted and stained, her body so thin we could see the bones pressing against her skin. Her eyes didn't sparkle the way dogs' eyes usually do. They were dull, glassy, and barely responsive. And when we knelt down beside her, she didn't even flinch. She just waited, like she'd been waiting a long time. We'd gotten a call from a neighbor, someone who couldn't bear to watch this any longer. They didn't know her name. She probably didn't have one. All they could say was, "The man keeps her tied up out back, all day. No food, no water. She can't even walk right anymore." What we found was worse than we expected. She was curled up on a patch of scorched dirt beside a rusted-out shed. A single sun-bleached rope looped around her neck. No shade, no bowl, not even a blanket. The air was thick with the smell of dry hay and oil, and the heat pressed down like a weight. She panted heavily, tongue dry and cracked. But what struck us most wasn't the heat. It was her stillness. Dogs usually react when strangers approach. They bark, they whine, they wag their tails. But this girl, she just stared at the ground. When her owner came around the corner, everything made sense. He was a large man, sun-darkened skin, calloused hands, and a glare like daggers. He didn't bother to greet us, didn't ask why we were there. Just crossed his arms and said, "What do you want with that thing?" That thing. Not my dog, not her. Just that thing. We asked if we could talk about her, and the first thing he said was, "She's useless. Doesn't bark. Didn't even make a sound when the whole damn warehouse got looted." It turned out he ran a small agricultural business. He'd kept her tied outside the storage shed to act as a guard dog. One night, someone had broken in and stolen a truckload of tools and supplies. Thousands of dollars in losses, and in his mind, it was all her fault. "Lazy mutt," he growled. "Didn't even lift her head." We asked if she was sick or injured. He laughed. "She ain't sick. She's just a coward, or broken. Who knows? Doesn't matter." He kicked at the dirt near her paws. She didn't move, didn't even blink. We knew then this wasn't just neglect. This was abuse, prolonged, systemic, and cruel. We asked how long she'd been like this. He shrugged. "Couple weeks maybe more. She don't eat much anyway. Not like she needs it." We tried to stay calm, tried to reason. We asked if she could be surrendered or rehomed, but his tone turned colder. "If you want her, you can buy her." He spat. "If not, leave her here. She'll die soon anyway." We weren't prepared for that kind of brutality, but we also knew if we left without her, it might be the last time anyone ever saw her alive. Her hind legs were tucked under her strangely. They looked weak, maybe broken. Her ribs were rising and falling too fast. She was dehydrated, starving. But when we looked closer, really looked, there was still a spark, buried deep under fear, a tiny flicker of life. Something inside her hadn't given up. Not completely. And that was enough for us. We were going to get her out, no matter what it took. The man's eyes were cold, calculating. He wasn't interested in saving her. He only saw her as something to profit from, one last transaction. "If you want her," he said again, "you'll have to pay for her." And then he named his price. It was more than double what any shelter would pay for a rescue, more than most people would pay for a healthy, trained dog. We tried to negotiate. tried to appeal to whatever shred of compassion he might have left. "She's in pain," we said. "She hasn't eaten in days. She can't walk. Just let her go." But he didn't even blink. "She's mine," he said flatly. "And if you don't take her today, I'll sell her to the meat buyers. At least they'll give me something." We knew the type. We'd dealt with men like him before. He wasn't trying to recover his losses. He was punishing her. Not because she failed, but because she reminded him of his own mistakes, and he needed someone to blame. Still, we had to be smart. This wasn't just about money. This was about survival. We offered less, then a little more. We begged, we reasoned, and still, he refused to budge. Every second that passed felt like a lifetime. She lay beside us, panting, her sides heaving, her tongue dry as paper. We asked him, one last time, to give her some water. He scoffed. "She won't be alive by nightfall anyway." That was the moment we knew. If we walked away, she wouldn't survive the heat. And even if she did, she'd never survive the rage he was holding back. So we paid. It hurt. We didn't have much left in the emergency fund. But this wasn't a negotiation anymore. This was a rescue. The moment the leash changed hands, he turned his back and walked away, without a word. No goodbye, no name, nothing. Just disappeared into the warehouse. We gently untied her from the post. She didn't resist, didn't move. Her body sagged into our arms like a rag doll. It was the first time anyone had touched her with kindness in God knows how long. We cradled her carefully and laid her on a soft blanket in the back seat. The car ride to the vet clinic was silent. She didn't bark, didn't cry. She just stared at the floor, her breath shallow, her body trembling with every bump in the road. At the hospital, we carried her straight inside. The staff moved quickly, checking vitals, hydration, reflexes. The vet looked up at us with a serious face. "She's in bad shape," she said, "but she's not beyond saving." First, her legs. Both hind legs had old fractures, never set properly. That's why she couldn't walk. The injuries weren't fresh, which meant she'd been dragging herself for weeks, maybe months. No splints, no treatment, just pain. Second, her hydration. She was severely dehydrated, her gums pale and sticky. We got her on fluids immediately. Then came the infection screening. Distemper, parvo, coronavirus, all negative. Miraculously, her organs were holding on. There was no internal damage. No broken spirit could hide that kind of will to live. When we offered her a small bowl of water, she hesitated, as if she didn't trust it. Then, slowly, she began to drink. Each lap of her tongue sounded like a whisper of hope. She didn't gulp it down like a desperate animal. She sipped it, like she'd forgotten what kindness tasted like. Next came the food. She was starving. You could count every rib along her sides. We gave her a mix of soft cooked rice and shredded meat. She sniffed it, unsure at first, then gently picked out every piece of meat, one by one, like she was still afraid it might be taken away. The vet looked over her chart. "She'll need surgery to reset the legs," she said. "But even then, there's no guarantee she'll ever walk normally again. The fractures are old, scar tissue has built up, but we'll try." Before any surgery, we needed to build her strength. That meant calories, nutrients, rest, and most importantly, trust. In the days that followed, we stayed by her side. At first, she wouldn't let us near. She'd flatten her body against the kennel floor, eyes wide with terror. Every time a hand reached in, she flinched. Sometimes she trembled so hard we thought she'd collapse. She didn't know what kindness was, but we showed her day by day. We never forced a touch. We just sat with her, talked to her, left the door open, and slowly, something changed. The first time she licked someone's hand, we cried. Not because it hurt, but because it meant she was still in there, still willing to believe in people. By the end of that week, she started wagging her tail, just barely, a little flutter, like a leaf in the wind. But it was enough to break every heart in that room. We named her Mira, short for miracle, because despite everything, she had survived, and somewhere inside her, there was still light. Mira's surgery was scheduled 2 weeks after her rescue. By then, she'd already stolen the hearts of every vet tech, volunteer, and visitor who crossed her path. She still trembled when hands got too close, still panicked if someone raised their voice. But her eyes, those eyes, were starting to change. They had warmth now, curiosity, a quiet question. Am I safe here? The answer, always, was yes. Her surgery lasted nearly 3 hours. The orthopedic team worked carefully to reset the old fractures in both hind legs. They inserted metal pins and plates to give her bones a second chance at alignment. The damage was worse than expected, evidence of long-term impact trauma. But they didn't give up, and neither did she. When we saw her in recovery, she was wrapped in soft blankets, groggy from anesthesia, her legs bandaged and braced. But even in that hazy moment, when we whispered her name, her tail twitched. Just once, but enough to let us know she heard us. The weeks that followed weren't easy. Rehab never is, especially for animals who don't just carry physical wounds, but emotional ones too. Mira had to relearn everything: how to trust, how to stand, how to believe she wouldn't be punished for failing. We supported her weight with a sling at first, holding her up gently while she tried to place her paws. Sometimes she'd collapse after a few steps, too tired to try again. But she never growled, never snapped. She just looked at us with those soft eyes, as if asking, "Is it okay if I try again tomorrow?" Of course it was. Every day we cheered her on. Every wobble, every shaky paw, every tail flick, it all mattered. Because healing isn't just medical, it's emotional, spiritual, and she was healing on all fronts. She grew stronger. Her appetite came roaring back. She started finishing entire bowls, then nosing the empty dish, asking for more. Her fur, once tangled and brittle, was brushed clean and clipped short to help with the heat. It came back shinier, softer, almost like new. But the biggest change came the first time she stood on her own. No slings, no supports, just Mira. Her legs were trembling, her breathing shallow, but she did it. One paw forward, then another. Everyone in the room went silent, and then, just like that, she took 3 full steps. Then she collapsed gently into a volunteer's arms. She was crying. We were crying. Even the vet had to wipe her eyes. That night, Mira slept curled on a real bed for the first time. A thick orthopedic mattress covered in soft blankets. She snored like a freight train, and we couldn't stop smiling. Weeks turned to months, and Mira kept surprising us. She stopped flinching when people reached for her, started licking faces, let strangers pet her, even wagged her tail when kids came to visit. She wasn't just surviving now, she was living. The day she ran, really ran, for the first time, it felt like magic. Her stride was clumsy, her legs weren't perfect, but she didn't care. and neither did we. She was free, and now she has a home. One of the vet techs who helped with her recovery fell in love with her gentle soul. The adoption papers were signed on a quiet Tuesday morning. Mira now sleeps curled at the foot of a real bed. She gets walks every day, toys, treats, belly rubs, a name she hears with love, a home where she'll never be tied up again. Mira's story isn't just about survival. It's about what happens when someone refuses to give up. When love walks into the darkest place and opens the gate. And if this story touched your heart just a little, do us a kindness. Tap like to show Mira her journey matters. Share this with someone who needs a little light today. Hit subscribe to never miss another story of healing, hope, and second chances. And keep watching. We've got another story waiting just for you. Because here at FurEver Tide, no soul gets left behind. Not on our watch.